we're going to have a little discussion about the basic rules that we need to have in order to sail. When you drive a car, there are certain rules that you have to follow, and the purpose of those rules is to keep cars from banging into each other. We do the same things when we sail. We have certain rules that we follow, and the purpose of the rules is to keep us from banging into each other. The rule book that covers sailing is about that thick. And we are only going to take 3 rules out of that and cover 3 rules, because those are kind of the basic rules that keep us from banging into each other, which is what we want to do. So we're going to look here, and the green boat has 2 sides to it. And you want to say that this side, and it's if I'm standing here and looking forward, you want to say that this side of the boat is the right side, but we don't call it the right side, we have to give it a name. So the name they give it is the starboard side. So the right side of the boat is the starboard side. Now if the wind is coming from here, where the white arrow is, it's coming in like this, and the wind is going over the right side of the boat, so this boat is on starboard tack. Starboard tack. If we switch him around the other direction, the left side of the boat, which is this side of the boat, if I remember I'm standing here and I'm facing forward, this is the left side of the boat. The left side of the boat is called the port side. So left side is port, starboard side is right. Okay? Now, that's important because the most basic rule, the rule that we're going to cover first, says a boat that's on starboard tack has the right of way. A boat that's on port tack has to get out of the way. So I have these 2 boats, and they're coming at each other. If something doesn't happen, if one boat doesn't get out of the way, they're going to crash into each other and have a crash, and that's not good. We want to prevent that. So the rule says the starboard tack boat has the right of way over the port tack boat. Which boat has the right of way between the orange boat, or I guess it's red, between the red boat and the green boat?
Red.
The red, sure, because the red is on what tack? The red is on starboard tack. So the green boat has to do one of 2 things. He can come up here like this, and he can tack and be on starboard tack with the red boat, and he didn't get in the red boat's way. The other thing he can do is if he decides he wants to go over in this direction to this side of the race course, he can go like this and duck behind this boat and go over here. And either one of those things are okay, and he's avoided the red boat by doing both things, okay? And that's what he was trying to do. So starboard tack boat has the right of way over the port tack boat. If the boom is out this way, that means the wind is coming in from this side.
That's the port
from
side.
The left. So the left is what side?
Port side.
Port tack. What about this green boat? Which side is the wind coming over on him?
Can't turn my body.
Yeah, I know, you got to turn. He's on starboard, sure. So who has the right of way between these 2 boats?
The green.
The green boat has the right of way. Even though one is going downwind with the wind and one is going upwind, that doesn't matter. It's who's on starboard and who's on port. And the boat that's on port has to get out of the way. The boat that's on starboard, he's got the right of way. Okay? All right. So if you watch the start of our races, we're going to put a race course in here. Whoop. If you watch the start of our races, this is what the start of our race looks like. All of these boats, all 4 of them, are on what tack? That's right. Remember, if I'm standing here and looking this direction, my right hand is on this side, the wind's coming over the right side, so he's on starboard tack. And if you ever notice us when we start a race, almost all the boats come down here like this on starboard tack. And the reason they do that is because they want to have the right of way. If I'm this boat and I decide, well, I'm going to start down here, and I'm going to be on port tack, okay? Good idea or not a good idea? Not a good idea, because this is what's going to happen as the situation develops. This guy's going to come up here like this. These guys are going to come in here like this. And we're going to get down here to the end, and oh no, the blue boat is in trouble. because these boats are all going to go up and start the race. And what he's got to do is go duck behind every single one of these boats because he's on port tack, they're on starboard tack. Because he's on port tack, he has to go behind them all, and so he starts the race in last place.
Now, if the wind where you're at coming from that side, see, then they would all come from over this way.
Correct, because if the wind was coming from here, all right, what would happen is all these booms would blow over here like this. So all these boats would be on what tack? Port tack. As long as they're all on port tack, it's okay. But if one boat decides to do this, what tack is he on?
He's on starboard.
He's on starboard, sure. So he has the right of way over every other boat that's starting the race. And so what he would do is he would holler out to the green boat, the red boat, and the blue boat, I'm on starboard tack, you got to get out of my way. He would go up like this, he would start the race, and they would all have to go behind him or flop over like this and go on starboard tack also.
So it's really important to know where the wind's coming from.
Absolutely. All the time when you're sailing, because the wind never stays constant. It switches directions all the time. And so when you're sailing, you got to get your head up out of your boat and look at the lake and see what the wind is doing up there and see how it's changing, and you got to keep track of that at all the time. That's right. What tack are these two guys on? Wind's coming over what side of the boat? Remember, we're going to put ourselves here.
Starboard side. Oh, these two boats starboard.
Starboard. They're both on starboard tack. Are they both on starboard tack? Okay, so we've got to have a rule that covers if both boats are on the same tack. Okay, so we just decided that both the green and the red are on starboard tack. So rule number 2 says the windward boat has to watch out. The windward boat has to watch out. That means the boat that's the closest to where the wind is coming from. All right, the wind's coming from right here on our white arrow, like this. So which boat is the closest to where the wind is coming from?
Red.
So the red boat, according to our rule 2, the windward boat has to watch out. So this boat has to watch out for this boat. So if this guy comes up like this, the green boat, and decides he's going to head up into the wind a little bit more, the red boat has to do the same thing. He has to get out of his way. He can't get in his way because he's the windward boat. Okay, now we're going to get a little more complicated here. What tack is the red boat on?
Port tack.
Port tack, because the wind's coming over what side?
The left side.
The left side, good. What tack is the green boat on?
Port tack.
Port tack. So rule number 1, starboard tack boat has a right of way. That doesn't apply here, okay? It has to be rule number 2, which is the windward boat has to watch out. So they're both on port tack. Which boat, the red or the green, is closest to where the wind is coming from? Red, sure, good. Because the wind's coming from here. Here's my arrow. The wind's coming from here. He's the closest to the wind. And so he's called the windward boat. Rule 2 says the windward boat has to watch out. So the green boat has the right of way. As they come together like this, the red boat has to go behind him, like so. Or if he wants to, he can flop over and go here. But he wouldn't do that because he's trying to go down in this direction. So he'd be sure that he goes behind him like that. So if they're on the same tack, doesn't matter if it's port tack or starboard tack, if they're both on the same tack, the windward boat has to watch out the boats that's the closest to where the wind is coming from. When boats go around the mark, we have to have a rule so that they don't run into each other, and that's the rule 3. Rule 3 says if these two boats are coming into the mark, and this is a tough rule. We're both on the same tack. What tack are we on? I forgot. Starboard. Okay, we're both on starboard tack. So port starboard doesn't matter here because we're both on the same tack, we're both on starboard. Rule number 3 says, and this is a tough one, When this boat, the green boat, is 4 boat lengths from the mark, we got to go back a little bit so we're 4 boat lengths from the mark. If this boat right here is overlapped on this boat, the inside boat has to be given room to go around the mark. So they would come up to the mark like this. The red boat would say, well, I don't want to give you room, but I have to. So the red boat would go out like this, and the both of them would go around the mark like this. If they're like this, okay, let's say that we're 4 boat lengths away from the mark. I know it's not quite 4, but let's stretch it out a little bit. Okay, I'm going to reverse that. Hang on just a second. Okay, we're 4 boat lengths away from the mark. Rule 3 says that 4 boat lengths away from the mark, if the inside boat, which in this case is the red boat, has an overlap, he has to be given room to go around the mark. So, even though the red boat, he has just a teeny little overlap, that doesn't matter. He's got an overlap. And so what has to happen now is we go down to the mark like this. The red boat says to the green boat, I've got an overlap, you've got to give me room. They go around like this. The green boat gives the red boat room, and the red boat goes inside, just like that. Okay, so it's an advantage when you're coming down to a mark to be this inside boat. Because if green boat has an overlap on red boat has to give green boat room to go around the mark. So the green boat, after they go around the mark, he's going to pass the red boat because the red boat has to give him room to go around. So it's an advantage to be the inside boat like this.
And you can see that when there's 10 boats out there?
That's the hard part, because exactly. And the answer is yes. When you're actually sailing a boat and sitting on the boat, like for example, if I'm the green boat, I can tell within this far, 3-4 inches, whether I have an overlap on that boat or not. And in this case, if I'm actually sitting on the boat and sailing, I'd say to the red boat, I've got an overlap, you got to give me room. And he'd say, yep, okay. And he'd give me room to go around the mark. But where we sail, you're way the heck out there. And you just can't tell. Sometimes you just can't tell. So what we do, because we are ladies and gentlemen when we sail, if the green boat says to me, I'm on the red boat, the green boat says to me, let's move him back just a touch. I've got an overlap. Well, he doesn't have an overlap. But I would say to the green boat, okay, because that's what we do. You don't get in big arguments. You don't dispute things with people. You say, okay, and you would let the green boat go around the mark in front of you like so. Now, one more thing before we quit. If the green boat has an overlap here, we're at 4 boat lengths. The green boat has an overlap. So the green boat says to the red boat, I've got an overlap, you got to give me room to go around the mark. The red boat says, yep, okay, you got it. But what happens is the wind comes up, and the wind comes from this direction. So the red boat gets the wind first, he goes like this, and now he doesn't have an overlap anymore. Doesn't matter. If he had an overlap at 4 boat lengths, he's got the overlap all the way to the mark, even if the red boat breaks that overlap. Okay, so that really gets complicated. But as long as this guy, the green boat, had the overlap at 4 boat lengths, no matter what happens to the mark, if the red boat goes way up here and the green boat falls way back here, the red boat still has to give the green boat room to go around the mark inside. Okay? And those are all tough this is a tough rule to do, especially when you're not sitting on the boat. When you're sitting up here, looking out there, it's tough to figure out, do I have an overlap or do I don't? And so people just kind of are nice about it, and they don't push each other, and they try to get along. So we were like this and like this. David tacked too close, boom, they hit. So David sails on until he's got a clear space where he's not in anybody's way, and he does a 360. He does one full turn like this, and then he can go ahead and continue the race. So he's absolved his error in the collision by doing a 360.
now we have to do windward, leeward, right? Because he can't pull out. Well, actually, he has to give him room, right?
Who has the right of way in this situation right here? This is tough. In this situation right here, we're all on the same tack.
Yep.
We're all on starboard. So port starboard doesn't matter. We go to rule 2, which is the windward boat has to watch out. In this situation, which boat is the closest to where the wind is coming from? Blue. Okay, the blue is the windward boat. So the yellow boat has the right of way over the blue boat. The red boat has the right of way over the yellow boat and the blue boat. So if the red boat, let's get the green boat out of there. So if the red boat decides, I'm going to start heading up to the line, he goes like this and he says, let's go up. And what that means is that these two boats have to go up into the wind like this. They have to get out of his way because they're windward of him. They are the windward boat. Does that answer your question, CJ?
Yeah.
Okay.